Before we begin the patrol, I need to point out a mistake made in the last patrol. During the vector sequence, we rolled a successful escort exit for the Heavy 109 escort station. I incorrectly removed the Heavy escort from that location. Instead, the Heavy 109 escort should have been reduced to a light escort station, not removed. Later, during the escort reaction segment, we drew a card that had the Reduce 109 indicator, and we were supposed to draw a Luftwaffe Advantage card. So a 109 dogfight was supposed to take place, which did not. However, we would have eventually removed the 109 escort thanks to the Reduce 109 indicator. So the only thing we lost was a dogfight round with 109 escorts. A big thanks to all of you who pointed out this mistake in the comments. Now, let's get started. Hey everyone, Poindexter here, and today we begin our 5th patrol in skies above Britain. We'll start by getting our pilots ready for today's mission. First, we move pilots Bailey, Graham, and Upton to ready status. Pilots Irving, Nelson, and Tucker have flown 2 patrols in a row, so we'll place them in the fatigue box and allow them to rest. Douglas, who bailed out at the end of the last mission, will be forced to sit this one out as well, as he needs a rest after his ordeal. Graham will lead Red Section. Bailey will fly Red 3 and will bring in new recruit Ellis to fly Red 2. Green pilot Kramer will fly Yellow 3 and Upton will fly Blue 2. And we mark the pilots who will be flying today on the pilot roster. Our squadron is ready. And now we check on the status of our 2 hospitalized pilots, Richards and Ashton. We roll for Richards first. It's a 12, and Richards finally returns to the squadron. Next, we roll for Ashton, and it's an 11, another fortunate roll, and Ashton also returns to the squadron. Now we set up the patrol by placing the inbound vector markers on the board and roll for the squadron starting position. Unfortunately, it's a 1, and we start in the deep zone once again. Next, we roll for visibility. It's a 4 for clear visibility, and we place the sun marker in the nose position. Finally, we roll on the random events table. And, of course, it's another bumpy landing, which means one of our green pilots cracks up on landing at the end of the patrol and will be placed in the hospital. Let's hope he's the only one today. Now, let's begin our 5th patrol. We reveal the first tile, and it's weather and Messerschmitts. The weather indicator means visibility has changed to haze. The Messerschmitts indicator normally means that one of our sections was jumped by 109 fighters, but since we're in the deep zone, that result turns into a straggler instead. We'll resist an easy victory point and keep the squadron together. We reveal the final tile in this space, and it's turn point and flat. We roll for the sun's new position, and an even number moves it to the starboard position. The bomber formation is struck by 1 flat hit, flak result gives us a chance to tally-ho, so we'll burn a fuel block and move the squadron to the middle zone. The first space is now empty of vector tiles, so we proceed to the fuel phase and burn another block of fuel. We cannot attempt contact since the raid has not been placed on the board yet, so we move to the vector phase. We'll remain in the middle zone for now, but we will climb to high altitude. If we would have moved and climbed, we would have been forced to burn fuel, but since we only climb to high altitude, we won't have to do so. We proceed revealing vector tiles in the next space. The first tile is straggler. We could break off a section to go after the lone bomber, but we'll keep the squadron together until the raid is revealed. We uncover the next tile, and it's another straggler, which we will ignore. We reveal the third tile in this space, and it's turn point and raid. Turn point means the sun has shifted again, and an even number moves the sun to the tail position. The raid indicator finally places the raid marker on the board, but since the visibility is haze and not clear, we cannot roll for the location of the escorts just yet. We reveal the final tile in this space, and it's new trade and flak. New trade allows us to finally determine what type of bombers we'll be going up against. And for the first time, the raid is made up of Dornier medium bombers. And an 11 places 4 tiles in the bomber formation area, a rather small raid. We isolate the rear tile due to the new trade effect, and will place the flak hit on one of the bombers. The flak indicator places 2 more flak hits on the formation. One of the hits has a catastrophic indicator, so we roll for the result. And it's an 8, and the effect does not take place. All of the tiles have been revealed, and we proceed to the fuel phase, and the squadron burns another block of fuel. Next is the contact phase, and we have a choice to make. If we attempt contact now, we stand a good chance of losing our high altitude position by intercepting in an adjacent zone. However, if we wait for the raid to move into the middle zone, the raid will most likely bomb the target and will lose the opportunity to break up the formation early and score victory points. But since the raid is small, we wouldn't score that many points anyway. Also, we still don't know where the escorts are located. So, we'll remain where we are and allow the raid to come to us. We now perform the vector phase, and we check for escort exit. Though we don't know if there are any 109s present in the formation, we'll go ahead and roll for the check just in case there are. We roll an 8, and no escort exit takes place. As indicated, we'll keep the squadron in the middle zone and wait for the raid. We begin the raid vector sequence once again and move the raid marker 1 space to the left. We reveal the first tile in this space, and it's another straggler, which we will ignore. We reveal the final tile, and it's raid. The Dorniers have dropped their bombs, and we remove the remaining vector tiles and move the raid marker to the turn space. We roll for the sun's new position, and an even number moves the sun to the nose position. The reveal phase is over, and we proceed to the fuel phase and burn another block of fuel. Now, we will attempt contact. We're in the same zone as the raid, and we add a +1 to the final die roll since we are flying at high altitude. We roll a 3, which is modified to a 4 for the flank low position. We'll burn another fuel to move to the flank high position and place the squadron on the starboard flank. Now that we've made contact, we can roll for the escort locations. And it's a 6. We place a light 109 escort in the ahead station and one in the high station. Before we give orders to the squadron, let's look at what we'll have to roll to successfully enter the bomber formation. We're flying at high altitude, and we have 109 escorts in the ahead and the high stations. The high station has the highest number, so we'll need to roll a 10 for success. This is a pretty high number, so let's check the numbers for intercepting the escorts. We're flying at high altitude, and we have escorts in the ahead and high stations. The numbers are slightly better, but not much. We'll need to roll a 9 to have an advantage over the 109s in the high station, which is the larger threat. We'll split off green section and have them go after the 109s in the high station in an effort to suppress them, and the rest of the squadron will go for the bombers. Now we roll for green section's intercept of the 109 escorts. It's a 6, and the attempt was unsuccessful. We can attempt one more roll, which we will do, but it will cost green section a block of fuel. And we succeed on the second attempt with an 11, and green section surprises the escorts. We draw an RAF advantage card, and green section maneuvers behind a swarm of 109s. The event text on the right is ignored since the escort station is not heavy. We begin the dogfight round and draw a tailing dogfight card. The 109s break away and vanish, but not before Oliver knocks down one of the 109s, giving him his first probable kill. Lloyd is also low ammo. Green section is now lost contact. Now we check if green section successfully suppressed this escort station. 3 fighters intercepted the escorts, and the 109 station was light, so we'll need to roll a 6 or higher for a successful suppression. Since we destroyed one of the German fighters in the dogfight, we'll add a +1 to the final die roll. And it's a 1, modified to a 2, which is too low for suppression to take effect, and our patrol just got a lot harder. The remainder of the squadron will attempt to enter the bomber formation. Since the high escort station was not suppressed, we'll need to roll a 10 or higher for success. The first roll is a 1, so we'll burn a block of fuel and attempt one more roll. And miraculously, we roll a 10, and the squadron enters the bomber formation from the starboard flank. We'll line up our Spitfires like this. Hopefully, we can dislodge this tile here, which will break apart the entire formation and give us better odds of destroying bombers on subsequent runs. We'll start at the front, and Pilot Kane flying blue leader. Green pilot hit is ignored, but he successfully knocks this Keta out of formation, since we have more than 10 eligible markers on the formation. Next is Upton in blue 2. His guns immediately jam. We draw for return fire, but it's mechanical failure. We roll an even number, and Upton exits the bomber formation area and is lost contact. However, Upton does manage to cause distress, and the Dornier falls out of formation. Pilot Hall in blue 3 is next. He knocks out the dorsal gunner and is low ammo. Next is yellow section, starting with veteran pilot Mengel flying yellow leader. He scores damage on the bomber, striking the wing. Mengel is low ammo, and distress does not take effect, since there are only 5 eligible markers on the tile. Next is Pancaldi in yellow 2. He also scores damage on the Dornier, striking a wing. Pancaldi is low ammo, and distress does not take effect, as we have only 6 markers present. Finally, green pilot Kramer in yellow 3 takes his turn. He damages the bomber a 4th time, knocking out the dorsal gunner, which also counts as a fuselage hit. Kramer is low ammo. The distress indicated on the card would take effect in this case, but the Dornier has suffered 4 damage hits, destroying it and giving Green Pilot Kramer his first official kill. We move to the rear of the formation and Red Section's attack run. We start with Graham flying as Red Leader. He scores a damage hit on the bomber, which strikes the wing. We draw for return fire, and Graham is struck in the elevator. Distress does not take effect, as there are not enough markers on the tile. Next is Green Pilot Ellis, who is flying his first patrol. He causes damage to the bomber, striking the fuselage with a possible catastrophic effect. We roll for the outcome. It's a 6, and the bomber is not destroyed. Ellis is low ammo, and his attack forces this Dornier out of formation with distress. Pilot Bailey in Red 3 is up next, and he finishes off the Dornier with a damage hit, which strikes the fuselage. Bailey is now low ammo. The squadron disengages, and we now check on the fate of Pilot Graham, who took a hit to the elevator. And he just makes it on a 7. The hit is trivial, and Graham is back in the fight. We end the bomber cycle with the resume segment and continue the interception sequence. We've completed the first round of bomber combat and proceed to the entropy phase to begin the second round. Concerned with the fact that we have 2 unsuppressed 109 escort stations lurking about, we'll immediately re-engage the bombers on the port flank. What remains of Blue Section will go after the Dornier straggler, and Red and Yellow sections will go after the 2 bombers in this kettle. We'll start with Kane flying as Blue Leader. He scores a damage hit on the bomber, striking the wing. Kane is now low ammo. Pilot Hall follows Blue Leader in for the attack, and he damages the dorsal gunner once again, which is counted as a fuselage hit. With this 4th damage marker, the Dornier is destroyed, and Hall is credited with his first confirmed kill. Hall is also out of ammo. We move to the middle of the formation and begin with Yellow Section's attack run. Pilot Mengel leads the charge. He scores a damage hit on the bomber, striking the engine and causing the bomber to fall out of formation. Mengel is now out of ammo. Distress also takes effect, as there are more than 6 eligible markers present. In either case, the Dornier is now separated from the kettle. Next is Pancaldi in Yellow 2. He scores a damage hit on the bomber, striking the fuselage. Pancaldi is also out of ammo. Green Pilot Kramer brings up the rear. He scores another damage hit, and the Dornier is struck in the fuselage once again. Kramer is now out of ammo. We now begin Red Section's attack run, starting with Graham flying Red Leader. He damages the bomber, striking the wing, and Graham is low ammo. Next is Green Pilot Ellis flying Red 2. And he takes a hit from somewhere in the formation and is struck in the cockpit. Pilot Bailey begins his attack run and knocks out the dorsal gunner. Bailey is now out of ammo. With all attacks completed, we disengage from the formation, and we roll for the fate of Green Pilot Ellis. We roll a 4, and Ellis is sent to the cockpit fate box. Now is the escort reaction segment, and both escort stations react. We draw 1 advantage card apiece for the high station and the ahead station. We randomly choose which Spitfires in the bomber formation area will be attacked by these 109s. Yellow 2 and Red Leader draw the short straw and we prepare them for the dogfight. Both Spitfires are tailed by a swarm of 109s. The event text on the right does not apply in either case. Pancaldi goes first, and he desperately tries to outturn the bandits on his tail. The maneuver fails, but Pancaldi's wild maneuvering causes the swarm to disappear. Pilot Graham is up next and will also attempt a turn maneuver. It fails, and Graham takes a hit, which strikes his elevator. We roll for the hit check. It's a 10, and the damage is trivial. Graham goes another round with the escorts, attempting a turn maneuver once again. And this time it succeeds. The 109s vanish, and during the maneuver, Graham runs out of ammo. He has also lost contact. But we're not done yet. The reaction card also indicates the 109 escorts in the head station are moved to the starboard station. Finally, we have an ambush indicator. A group of 110s ambushes our fighters in the lost contact area. This ambush is first applied to any sections that are located there. So in this case, the 110s will be going after green section. We draw a Luftwaffe advantage card, and a swarm of 110s approach head-on. But Green Pilot Fenton, flying Green 3, fires wildly into the approaching bandits and is now low ammo. The dogfight begins, and we draw a head-on card. Oliver in Green 2 scores a probable kill on a 110. Green leader Lloyd is now out of ammo, and the remaining 110s fly past and disappear. The reaction segment is over, and we proceed to the chase segment. We have several fighters in the lost contact area, 2 of which are out of ammo, so we'll send those 2 Spitfires home. Now we must decide what to do with our remaining Spitfires. We cannot form these Spits into their own ad hoc section, since none of the pilots are veterans. So our only choices are to attempt to chase the bomber formation individually or return them back to base. Chasing means rolling 2 dice for each Spitfire and choosing the lower number. Both escort stations are light. In our current visibility, we'll need to roll a 7 to successfully enter the bomber formation, so we'll need to roll at least a 7 on both dice to succeed. We'll go for 1 chase attempt, since we have just enough fuel to do so, starting with Blue 2. We do roll a 7, but also a 3, which is low enough to cause an escort reaction and trigger a dogfight. We draw an advantage card, and a pair of 109s attack from head-on. The 109s vanish, but Blue 2 takes a hit, which strikes the fuselage. We roll for the hit check, and it's a 6, and Blue 2 heads to the fuselage fate box, the first victim of a failed chase. Next is Green 3. It's an 11 and a 2. The 2 means Green 3 is also bounced by 109s, and a dogfight is triggered. A pair of 109s approach from head-on, and the 109s fly past and vanish. Green Pilot Fenton is hit, and the fuselage takes damage. We roll for the hit check, and Fenton is sent to the fate box on a roll of 4. Green 2, seeing 2 of his mates taken out, has enough and decides to return to base. We proceed to the patrol complete phase and the fuel segment, burning another block of fuel. We skip escort recovery since none of the escort stations were suppressed, and move to escort exit. With the raid and the turn space, we'll need to roll a 9 for each 109 escort station to see if they exit the map, since they are both light escorts. We'll start with the starboard escorts, and we roll an 8, and the escort remains. We roll for the high station next. It's a 12, and the light 109 escort is removed from the map. Channel patrol and reform are skipped, since the raid isn't over the channel yet, and we have no Spitfires in the lost contact area. So we proceed to raid vector. We place the outbound vector tiles on the map and move the raid to the first outbound space and reveal the tile. It's a straggler. Since we now have no fighters in the lost contact area to intercept this straggler, we swirl again and proceed to the entropy phase once again. We go another round in the bomber formation area. We have several Spitfires that are out of ammo, so we'll send them back to base. Blue Leader Kane, however, still has some ammo left, so we'll send him on a flank attack against this heavily damaged Dornier in the hopes that he can bring him down and score another victory point. He successfully scores a final damage hit on the bomber, striking the wing and destroying the bomber. Kane is now out of ammo. We draw a card for the escort reaction, and the starboard escort station reacts to Kane's attack. We also have a 109 ambush to deal with as well. We start with the starboard escort station reaction first, and a pair of 109s appear on Kane's tail. The event text is ignored since the escort station is light. Kane will attempt to evade the 109s, which means we draw 2 tailed cards and choose one for our result. One of these cards is definitely better than the other. We have a green pilot hit indicator and a reinforcement indicator. We'll go with the green pilot hit since it has no effect. Also, since we are still tailed, we reduce the Luftwaffe marker 1 level, so we're down to a single 109. Kane is now lost contact and will attempt another evade maneuver in the hopes of shaking this lone bandit off our tail. And our luck isn't quite as good this time. Both results are the same. Kane's Spitfire takes a hit, which strikes his wing, and we reduce the escort marker 1 level, which means the 109 disappears. We now roll for the damage to Kane's Spitfire, and it's an 8, and Kane is sent to the fate box. With this last dogfight completed, all of our squadron pilots have either returned to base or are in fate boxes, so the patrol is over. Now we check on the fates of our pilots who took serious damage. We'll start with Upton, who took a hit to the fuselage. He rolls an 8, and Upton lands safely and hangars his Spitfire. Next is Green Pilot Fenton, who was also damaged in the fuselage. Unfortunately, his Spitfire crashes, and Fenton is placed in the hospital. We now roll for Kane, who took a hit to his wing. His plane catches fire, and he is killed. Finally, we roll for Green Pilot Ellis, who was on his first patrol. His plane also catches fire, and he is wounded and placed in the hospital. With Pilot Kane killed on this patrol, the squadron is now short 2 pilots, so we roll on the pilot replacement table to see if any new pilots arrive. We roll a 9, and we receive 1 pilot replacement. We welcome Green Pilot Janicki to the squadron. Now we must choose a green pilot for the bumpy landing random event, and it appears that Kramer is the only choice, so we'll place him in the hospital along with the other green pilots. Finally, we tally up our victory points. We destroyed 2 escorts, a 109 and a 110. we shot down 4 bombers and isolated 1 Ketan, but after the bombers had dropped their bombs. And we had 3 pilots wounded and 1 killed. All in all, we scored 4 victory points, a little below average result. Our squadron was bled today. We shot down 4 bombers and 2 escorts for 4 victory points, but it was not nearly worth the pilot casualties we suffered on this patrol. Our green pilot suffered the most, with 3 of them currently in the hospital. We also lost Pilot Kane, one of our promising regular pilots, who was shot down in flames immediately after getting his first kill. He was 1 patrol away from becoming a veteran. Our green pilots are holding their own, however, getting kills and racking up much-needed experience. A few are close to being promoted to regular pilots, almost ready to shed their down feathers and grow actual wings. We also learned that attempting chase with individual fighters is very high risk, as the first 2 pilots to attempt it were promptly placed in the fate box after being pummeled in a dogfight. Sending sections on a chase may be the way to go in the future. Let's hope we can get our pilots out of the hospital quickly and get them back in the air, because every experienced pilot counts going forward. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next patrol.